The difference between your customers who are currently looking for you doing this, or your customers who are looking for you doing this, is only a couple of questions and answers away. Welcome to another episode of Talking Tech, where we make sense of the world of technology one question at a time. My name is Liron Segev, and today, questions and answers is why we're here. We're honored to be joined by Marcus Sheridan from the Sales Line, the original Sales Line, right? Okay.
Before we get into it, Marcus, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm from South Africa. I have seen lions. I have been out with lions. Tell me where the Sales Line come from.
There's a backstory to this, but really, when I was younger, here's the quick story.
Right.
When I was younger, I was in the slow readers class, right? So in other words, they said that you're not a really good reader, and so I guess they were right. And I didn't read any books. And the first book that I ever read in its entirety as a kid was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I was absolutely fascinated with the book, with the lion, Aslan, and so from that point on, it was like, to me, like lions were my thing. They were my jam. And so I knew I wanted to have a company with the name Lion in it, and sales sounded better than marketing lion, and so I just went with sales.
Well, we got to get you out to South Africa to actually see these things in real world.
Bro, I have been to South Africa. I was there not too long ago.
Awesome.
And I spoke in Joburg, and then I shot out, I took a small plane to the bush, and I spent 3 days in the bush with my daughter, and it was awesome. And it was a tremendous experience. We saw the Big Five. We saw everything. Everything that I wanted to see, we saw. The only thing everybody kept saying to me was, though, "Are you going to Cape Town? Are you going to Cape Town?" And I said, "No, that's not on the trip." "How can you come to South Africa and not go to Cape Town?" So apparently, I was supposed to go to Cape Town as well.
Well, you know what? There's always a reason to come back, and that's your reason.
That's my reason.
There we go. All right, let's get into kind of the meat and the bones of this. And I'm a firm believer that, going forward is great, but you got to know where you came from. You got to have a starting point, and this is the only way kind of to understand a direction, and being true to your path really keeps you honest and on track. So I think we got to start casting mind back 2008. You've told the story a million times. The world economy went for a board of everybody took a beating. Let's pick up the story there, if you don't mind. I mean, you've told the story. Tell us.
I mean, I love the story because it changed my life. Really, I started the company in 2001 with two guys, swimming pool company, river pools and spas. Things were going okay. But then that market collapsed in 2008, and immediately we had customers that were withdrawing deposits and saying, "Oh, we can't do it." And, so things started to get worse and worse. And by January of 2009, I was in so much financial trouble. 3 weeks I'd been overdrawn on our business bank account. My 16 employees were sitting home. I talked to 3 business consultants. They all said you should probably file bankruptcy. And so this is where we were. This is where we were. And I knew that we had to generate more traffic, more leads, more sales than we'd ever done, but we didn't have any money to do it with. And we had dramatically less potential customers because of the fact that people couldn't get loans anymore. And so that's when I started to research the internet, right? Because I could see what was happening with the internet. And basically, as I read these complicated phrases like inbound marketing, content marketing, digital, social, blogging, all this, in my mind, Liron, it was basically, okay, Marcus, so if you just obsess over the questions your customers have, and you're willing to address those questions on your website through text and video, you just might save your business. So that was the mindset. And so that's exactly what I did. We embraced 4 simple words as our business philosophy, which of course today is known as They Ask, You Answer. And to make a long story short, it became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. We get about 700,000 visitors a month right now. And we had so much success that we started manufacturing pools as well.
Wow.
And so we're financially sound and strong today. And of course, today I'm not a pool guy anymore. I'm a silent partner with River Pools. I just go around and I speak to businesses, speak at conferences about really this philosophy of they ask you answer, but being a great teacher, great communicator, solving their problems, making that a culture within your organization, and why this is a principle that's going to last for as long as businesses last. This is not one of those, this is not a platform. You know, platforms come and go.
Absolutely.
Principles, they are eternal, and so that's the idea.
Yeah, I completely, the story is absolutely spot on. It's about being the all things to all people. You know, people have questions, and that's how we start. So let's take it back. We engage with any brand and any company. We always start at the Google search box. Everybody does that. That's the way we shop these days. And what do? We typically look for an answer to a question. How much is it? Or does it work? Has anyone else physically used it? I don't care about marketing gumph. I want to know from other people, reviews, all of those. That's where we start. And it's amazing to me how many companies are still not simply addressing the issues head on. You can see it yourself in your analytics. This is what people want to know. And yet companies are ignoring it altogether. Is that what you're finding as well?
Yeah, in the book, I call that I call that ostrich marketing. In ostrich, you know, when it has a problem, it buries its head in the sand, which isn't really true. It thinks the problem will go away.
Right.
But you and I know the problem, or the question in this case, the fear, the issue, the worry, the concern, it never goes away. And so we have a choice. The choice is either we can address it and own it, or we can allow the competition to do it.
Yeah.
Daggone, it sure is better when we do it. And besides that, in life, the best way to resolve a concern is to address the concern before it ever becomes a concern. Because then you're on the front end of it. Then you own it, then it's yours, and you can actually make it an advantage as well. And so that's why it's so powerful.
And again, you can control the message. I mean, if you own the problem, people ignore those big elephants in the room thinking what is going to happen, it's going to go away. It doesn't go away. People will simply fester over this. And when you go to your Google search results, you simply go one step back and look at your competition. And there's 30, 40 of them. If you're not going to answer the question, somebody else is going to.
Let me give you an example of that. All right. This specific example is in the book, but one of the prolific subjects that people search when they're going to buy something, it has to do with the negatives or the problems of the product or the service, right? People are always basically saying, well, it's almost like we're saying, how could this blow up in my face? One of the questions that I was asked almost every single call over the years was, okay, Marcus, I've heard there's some potential problems with fiberglass pools. So be honest, what are the issues with a fiberglass pool? And of course, when I started this process of They Ask You Answer, there wasn't a single pool guy in the world that had addressed that question on their website. And again, hiding the elephant. And so we said, let's talk about the problems with fiberglass pools. Well, to make a long story short, that article has been read about 500,000 times. And here's what's really, really interesting. I did a study over the course of 2 years, Liron, and I said, what is the keyword phrase that has generated the most sales appointments over the course of 2 years for the company? And the number one keyword phrase that generated the most sales appointments, other than the company name, which I don't really count that one, was fiberglass pools problem.
Yeah.
And that one single article, because we have advanced analytics, we use HubSpot, so we track everything. And that one single article has made us almost to this day $1 million in revenue.
One article.
Talking about the problem.
Right. But again, you took the problem and you owned it. And you said, right, here's what we're going to do. People are asking it. Why ignore it? So let's address it. Let's deal with it. But also let's make it a positive spin from here, guys, here's the reality. Maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe, and kind of then you cater that message accordingly. At the end of the day, you put in information back into your readers and especially your customers. You put it back into their hands. Now they're armed, but because you provided them the information, you've just earned their trust.
You mentioned something there I think is really critical. Every business and every website says what they are and who they work with and why they're special. But very, very few, I would say less than 1%, say what they're not and who they're not a good fit for. It's actually more important on your website that you have a section that says who you're not a good fit for than who you are. And that's all just based on simple psychology, But, I mean, let's just be hypothetical. Let's say that you were a pool shopper, right? And you were looking for a pool that is 16 by 32 feet long, 5 feet deep, right? And it's a rectangle, right? So let's say that that's what's on your mind. That's what you want. You know you want that. And so you read about the problems of the fiberglass pool from me. And you hear me say, well, I want you to know that fiberglass pools aren't for everybody. And the reason for this is because they have certain size limitations. They don't get longer than 40 feet. They don't get wider than 16 feet. They don't get deeper than 8 feet. But if you're looking for a low maintenance pool that's going to last you a lifetime, that's less than 16 by 40, less than 8 feet deep, and you can find a shape or a size that fits your needs, well, then fiberglass might be a great choice for you. Now, the person that wanted the 1632 rectangle, the whole time they're saying, check, 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 check. Looks like fiberglass is for me. And I never had to say fiberglass is for you. People want to figure this stuff out on their own.
Right.
So our job is to facilitate the process of decision-making so they're able to say, yep, this is a good fit for me.
The magic is always more powerful when it happens in your own hands, right, than up on the big stage. So you're making the magic happen in their hands, providing the information. Now you check your own boxes. And if you're happy, proceed to the next stage.
Yep.
All right. Yep. So let's talk about kind of the couple of items that people will absolutely, positively should have on the site. What do you think they are?
There's 5 subjects that basically move the needle in every single industry.
Yeah.
And in the book, we talk about these, refer to them as the big 5. And so whenever we engage a client even, we start with the big 5 because that's what moves the needle. And they consist of the buyer-based questions that everybody wants to know. And here's the 5 subjects. Number 1, how much is it? Number 2, what are the problems with it or the negatives? Number 3, how does it compare to other things in the marketplace, other comparables? Number 4, what is everybody saying about it? Reviews. And number 5, what is the best of it? In other words, if you're looking for, let's say that you live let's say you visit Dallas, Texas tonight, and you're looking to go to a Tex-Mex restaurant. You might search for best Tex-Mex restaurant, Dallas, very common search. You wouldn't search for worst Tex-Mex restaurant, Dallas. It's not how we search for restaurants.
Sure.
And so we search for the best one. Now, we don't always go to the best one. We don't always choose the best thing, but we at least want to know who the best are, right? And so this is how we make decisions. These are the 5 things for the most part that drive the economy, and the companies that are willing to address them immediately put themselves in a very different place than their competitors, because most people won't talk about this because it's those ostrich subjects that are like, can't talk about cost and price. Of course you can. It's actually quite easy.
And now you tell executives, you put them in the room and you say, guys, we're now going to start laying stuff out there. We're going to talk about our cost. And immediately they have a mild coronary heart attack. They say, well, how can we expose this? But everybody knows everybody. You know your industry. You know what your competitors are doing. You got your fingers on the pulse. They have their fingers on their pulse. Or who you're hurting is yourself. Because if I go to a website and it doesn't answer the question of cost, I'm not going to make a phone call. I'm not going to send an email. I'm wasting my time. I'm moving to the next one.
A lot of businesses respond to that by saying, well, you don't understand. We don't sell a commodity. We offer a very customized solution, blah, blah, blah. And the flaw with that is anybody can say, like if I go to any person, regardless of, they can sell, jet engines or they can sell popsicle sticks. I go to them and I say, can you help me understand what would keep the cost of a project down? Yes. Can you help me understand the factors that will drive the cost of a project up? Yes. Can you help me understand why is it that as I've gotten different quotes in your industry, some are very high, some are very low. Why is that? And once again, they will say, sure, I can explain why there's a delta. You know how many times like a manufacturer's come to me and said, geez, Marcus, we're just getting killed by these Chinese manufacturers for our products. I'm like, so are they making it better than you? Well, no, they're not making it better than us. Ours is dramatically higher in quality. Okay. So have you bothered explaining that well on your website? Well, no. Well, okay. Well, then you've allowed the marketplace to choose the inferior product because you haven't bothered opening your mouth and being a good teacher and saying, well, this is what's going on. Now, if you want to go the cheaper route, you can, but understand this is what you're going to get for that. You can't complain about the marketplace if you're not teaching the marketplace. It's against the rules.
Sometimes it's a simple, straightforward thing, which is very difficult to get through. The culture of the businesses, especially the big corporates and the incumbent corporates with dare I say, the grey-haired exec who kind of socials all new and online's new. They're very set in their ways, and it was always been me, everything inside the firewall, everything on my side, IP protection, lawsuits if everybody infringed. But the new economy is changing to a collaborative, more open, but it's a hard change.
Those things where, when you said that, it reminds me of video, right? So we do a lot of video training. Specifically, we train sales teams how to carry themselves more effectively on camera, because we think it's so important. Obviously, the consumer thinks this, so we teach it. And a lot of people say things like, I'm just not good on camera, or they say, I don't watch videos, so I don't see why we're going to do video. Number one, it doesn't matter what you do, what your behavior is. The only thing that matters is, where is the consumer?
Right.
Where are they, the buyer, and how do they want to learn? If they want to learn through video, well, then it doesn't matter what you think or what you feel. And see, we can't let personal opinions screw up smart business. We do it all the time. People say, I don't like social media. It doesn't matter if you like social media. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't like a lot of things, but I do them anyway, because that's where the marketplace is. Now, if the marketplace isn't there, then don't do it. If I get some B2B, really specialized B2B company come to me and that says, do you think we should be on Facebook? I'm like, no, because there's a lot of specialized B2B companies that shouldn't be on Facebook. If you're a restaurant, heck yeah, you should be on Facebook. And so I'm not saying that you just do the thing to do the thing. What I am saying is, if the marketplace is there, you cannot allow your personal opinions to get in the way of financial peace. And it happens all the time. It's a tragedy. You got to get over it. The classic example that I love when we look at history is one of the most celebrated quotes in business. And I think it's the stupidest quote in business. I don't like it. And it's by Henry Ford. And everybody knows the quote. He said about the Model T, You can have any color you want as long as it's black. Now, it's a terrible quote, and I'll tell you why. Because of that, he almost lost Ford Motor Company. That's the thing that almost drove him out of business early on. And his kid had to take over for him, because his kid was the one that was more visionary, because Pops, who was visionary at first with mass production, he lost the vision, and the marketplace passed him by, and then they had to scramble to recover and save the company. So it's not a glorious quote. It's a what not to do quote.
And so many people get this wrong. It's not about you. You're just the enabler. You're in business to enable your customer, able to serve your customer. So many amazing ideas got shot down around a boardroom because the people in the room said, well, I don't use Snapchat, so what nobody else does. I don't use insert platform here, so nobody else does. It's nothing to do with you. You might not dig it. It might not be your cup of tea. But so what? You're not the customer. And you got to understand, the customer speaks a specific language. And if you don't get on board with that language, you don't have long to go. You've got to be there. So, let's kind of delve a little bit into the book, if you don't mind. So you got the book, they ask you answer, 4 simple words, but a lot of ramifications. We've had frequently asked questions in the past. Every website since day dot had a FAQ, and I think geeks liked it because it was a little play on a swear word. But they all started there. What's happening in the book? What can we expect? They ask you answer. That's the philosophy. How do we implement it? How do we take it? Is that what the book is going to give me, like a manual of what I need to do?
You're going to find it's one of the most applicable, takeaway-driven business books that you'll read by far in 2017. If you get this book and you read it, it is going to give you first. Everything starts with a philosophy, right? So the philosophy is they ask you answers. See, a lot of people start, say, content marketing, and they don't even have a philosophy nor a strategy behind it. You see what I'm saying? And so before you have the practice, which is content marketing, you have a philosophy, you have the strategy, and then you have the practice. So the book really covers the philosophy, it covers the strategy, and it goes beyond content marketing. For example, when you look at They Ask You Answer, really this goes beyond, hey, let's let's be more than just answering questions on our website. Let's obsess over the way they want to buy, the way they think. A simple example is Zappos. Zappos, everybody's heard of Zappos at this point, but Zappos did something really amazing outside of good customer service. They said something very simple. Why can't you sell shoes online?
Yeah.
Right? And then the buyer said, because I do not want to be stuck with a pair of shoes that don't fit. And Zappos said, okay, is it possible to overcome that fear? Sure, it's possible. Just let them send it back. Now, the idea of sending a shoe back was unheard of, man. And now, today, it's really common. Lots of companies do it. But at the time, that was just nuts. And so the consumer, the buyer asked, can I send them back if I don't like it? Zappos was one of the few that answered. They were the first that really answered in the process of this. Even though everybody said you can't do it, they're going to take advantage of it. These competitors of theirs, they became a billion-dollar company. This is how it works. Same thing with what we were just talking about in terms of the way people learn. So if the consumer, the buyer today is saying, I want to learn through video, that's what they're asking. Our answer has to be, okay, well now we're a media company because that's what we are. And eventually we're going to be doing VR, virtual reality, because that's where we are. We don't have a choice. It's either we're going to do it or we're going to be left behind. The tide is going to rise when the tide rises. It's going to fall when it falls. Can't control it. You can build a dam. You can do this, that, but it's the tide. It does what it does, right? And so we've got to be prepared for it. And so they ask you answer is going to give you a lot of practical advices on how to become the most trusted voice in your industry, how to use customer buyer fear to your advantage, how to take the things that you feel are your elephants, your drawbacks, your disadvantages, and turn them into strengths as a business. And then it's going to address this major problem, which is sales and marketing alignment. See, you got a lot of people that believe in digital, they believe in content and inbound, all this stuff, but they're so frustrated because they can't get buy-in from leadership and sales teams. And this is a sales conversation. They ask you answer is a book about trust and it's about sales. Ultimately, that's what it's about, right? And so it's going to help anybody that's had a problem getting alignment with sales and marketing, getting them fired up to, say, produce content, to integrate content, great teaching into the sales process. It's going to help with that as well. And then it talks, of course, about long-term implementation and vision. So those are really the three parts of the book. It's the marketing side, there's a sales side, and then there's a, hey, how do you do this side?
Well, the sales sounds critical because you could be preaching to the converter, to the choir. They love what you're doing. But if you don't have buy-in from the sales, you don't have buy-in from the execs, it's an uphill battle and they're just not going to get it. But once it all aligns properly, and once we stop with this bullshit of, mission statement, which nobody knows and nobody actually lives by, once we get over the marketing fluff and actually start saying, hey, the number one thing that makes our business money is customers paying money into our business. Once we get that, that should be our business motto. Make more money, make happy customers, rinse and repeat. Get that, and the needle move forward.
That's exactly right. The number one email that I've gotten over the last 6 years, surprisingly, isn't, hey, Marcus, we need more traffic, leads, and sales. That's number two. Number one is from the frustrated marketer that says, I'm at wit's end. Can't get anybody catch the vision here. What am I going to do? And, a lot of people for a long time said, well, that might have worked for you as a pool guy, Marcus. But I don't see how it applies to us. We're different. Of course, every company believes they're different. And that's why the book it's got some pretty significant case studies too of B2B service-based businesses that, applied the ask you answer. It's got quite the mix. And so the point is, you're going to see by reading the book, real businesses that have applied this incredibly simple yet revolutionary principle to their sales and marketing strategy. You're going to see the physical results because each case study isn't just that, hey, they got more web traffic. That's dumb. Who needs that? What we need is revenue. And so you keep reading about revenue generation, how it impacted the bottom line of the company. To me, that's where we are, especially if you're an SMB, right? If you're a huge corporation or brand, you can be like Coke and you can just kind of throw money at things. And if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's not a lot of accountability necessarily because they got so much profit hand over fist that it's okay if campaigns don't work. You can't afford to do that as an SMB. You got to hit the bullseye, right? You got to make money. That's the facts. Otherwise, you don't have a business.
Right.
You can't keep the lights on. And so that's why the book is so revenue oriented.
I mean, that's perfect. The whole thing is that, I have kind of the philosophy of likes are nice, but leads are better. What do you do with a like? What do you do with the traffic? I want to convert that into somebody who I can actually have a conversation with, someone I can engage with, someone I can maybe take it to the next level, or not. But at least I know where I stand. I have 10,000 likes. What do I do with that? I can't buy a cup of coffee with that. I need to make this into effectively a reality. And I think the world is changing from, I kind of look at it to say, it's there's B2C, B2B, but I think today it's P2P, it's person to person, because we're dealing with a person at the other end, whether you're selling $1 million system or whether you're selling them that popsicle. It's a person at the other end of that line, and if you're not making that human connections, you've lost the plot before you even start. And people are people; they have questions. If you provide those answers in a way that they can relate to, they'll trust you. You're a good mate. I'm happy to engage with you further, and that's kind of where we all need to get to. So let me kind of end off. If you could offer a challenge to the audience here and say to them, if you do one thing today, what should that be? Besides buying the book, that's an obvious. That's number one. The next thing, what should you get out and do that today that's going to make a difference, and maybe will get your executive who's been on your head the whole time to kind of sort of start coming around?
As a group, individually, you get together. It's a group, but individually you say, I want you to do this. 2 parts. It's a 5-minute activity. First part, write down the top 7 reasons why somebody would not buy from us, assuming they know we exist. Okay? The top 7 reasons why somebody would not buy from us, assuming they know we exist. Be honest. That's number 1. That's number 1. You got to come up with at least 7. Now here's the second part to it. Of those 7, how many have you addressed very well on your website already? And what's crazy is I've done that little activity with amazing results, by the way, with thousands of people. The average business, I don't care what they are, the average business has addressed 1 to 2 out of the 7 on their website. The goal over the next year is that you have a check mark next to all 7, because you have found a way to address each one of them well on your digital platforms.
And fantastic. I think the fact that people will surprisingly easy to come up with 7 points, and yet they know it. It's internal. It's in your head, your culture. You're living those 7 points, and yet you've ignored them. It's mind-blowing that kind of thing happens. Marcus, thank you. If people want more information, this is the plugmyself.com time. How can people get more information? I know that you do speaking engagements. You'll come into the corporates and help us poor people who can't get our executives to badge. Where can we get more information on everything?
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it, Liron. It's great being here with you on your show. You're doing great things. If people want to contact me, here's my direct email. It's marcus@thesaleslion.com. So if you're listening to this, if you got a question about just anything about They Ask You Answer, anything like that, hit me up. You can find the book, of course, on Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Just type in They Ask You Answer. It's there. Check it out. Leave a review if you would, please. And you can find me on Twitter @thesaleslion. It's thesaleslion.com. And hit me up on Facebook. Tons of videos, man. We got a lot of videos out there to help people that are just trying to get better each day. That's my goal. I know that's your goal, but it's been a pleasure being here with you today, bud.
Wow, that was really awesome. I learned a hell of a lot, feeling inspired, ready to take over the world. Thank you, Marcus. I'll leave his details below. We'll see you on the next episode.